The morning fog over Naval Base rolled in thick, swallowing the targets and the sea beyond them. Recruits lined up along the sniper range, their rifles gleaming under the gray light. Every breath came out in white clouds. It was qualification day, the most dreaded morning in every trainee's schedule. Commander James Rains, a hard-faced veteran with 22 years in the SEALs, stood behind them, coffee in hand. "Let's see who's worth the brass we waste on you," he barked. His voice cut through the chill like a blade. Every trainee aimed, fired, and missed. The wind was too sharp, the distance too far. Rains smirked. "No ghosts out here to save you, boys." At the mention of the word ghost, several recruits exchanged glances. Everyone had heard the whispers, the story of a man no one had ever met, no records, no medals, no rank. Just a name passed around like a secret, the ghost shooter. They said he wasn't real. They said he was a myth to scare rookies into aiming. But others swore they'd seen him, a man who trained in silence, who could hit a target so far away you'd hear the shot before you ever saw the hole. Rains didn't believe a word of it. Legends were for civilians and campfire stories, not for SEALs. He took a sip of coffee and called out, "Pack it up. Wind's trashing our readings." Then it happened. A single shot cracked across the base. Not from any of the recruits, not from any known position. The sound rolled in from the West Range, where no one was scheduled to shoot. Everyone froze. The bullet struck a target that hadn't been touched all day, a metal plate over 2 miles away. It didn't just hit the bullseye, it split it. Silence. One recruit muttered, "No way." Another whispered, "That's him." Rains's face darkened. "Who fired that shot?" he barked. No one answered. The range officer shook his head. "Sir, that came from outside the boundary line." Rains narrowed his eyes toward the desert horizon. Beyond the shooting berms, the mist thinned into a wide stretch of sand, nothing but rock and wind. Yet, for the briefest second, he saw it. A silhouette. Tall, still, rifle slung low. Then gone. The commander stomped across the field, ignoring the warnings from his officers. He reached the far target within minutes, his boots kicking up dust. He leaned close to inspect the metal plate, perfectly punctured dead center. Not a nick, not a graze. It was precision beyond military standard. He crouched down, scanning the dirt. There it was, a single brass casing half buried in the sand, glinting faintly under the rising sun. He picked it up, rolling it between his fingers. A word was engraved near the base in neat, deliberate letters, "Iron." Rains frowned. "Iron," he muttered, "never seen a round like this." He pocketed it and turned back toward the base. The recruits still stood frozen, eyes locked on the horizon. Someone whispered, "It's the ghost, sir." "Don't be stupid," Rains snapped. "There's no such thing." But that night, long after the base lights dimmed and the ocean winds died down, Rains sat alone in his office. He couldn't shake the image, that silhouette against the fog, the impossible shot, the engraved casing. He opened his laptop and typed "Iron Classified Sniper Projects." The screen blinked. Then a single file appeared, Operation Silent Dawn 2003. Status terminated. All personnel deceased. Iron Ghost. Rains leaned back in his chair, heartbeat loud in his ears. The bullet casing rested beside him under the desk lamp, casting a long shadow across the floor. Outside, somewhere beyond the waves, a faint echo of a rifle shot broke the silence again, one that nobody heard but him. 2 weeks passed, but the shot still haunted. Every night, recruits whispered about it in the barracks, a perfect hit from nowhere, a casing marked iron, and a silhouette that vanished like smoke. Commander Rains didn't believe in ghosts, but he couldn't deny facts. Someone had pulled that trigger, and whoever it was didn't want to be found. Then one morning, a dusty gray pickup truck rolled through the base gate without clearance. The guard stopped it, ready to demand ID, but the man inside simply handed him a crumpled note. It read, "Observer, Range clearance authorized. Signed by no one. The guard hesitated, then waved him through. Something in that man's eyes, calm, focused, ancient, made it hard to say no. By the time the truck parked near the sniper range, trainees were already lined up for the annual Cross Branch shooting trials. Top marksmen from the Marines, Rangers, and Navy SEALs had gathered, competing for bragging rights and a spot in the elite sniper program. The man in the truck stepped out quietly. He wore no rank, no name tag, only a faded cap pulled low and an old, scuffed rifle case. His clothes were simple, military cut but decades old. The way he moved, deliberate, fluid, with zero wasted motion, made even the instructors go silent. "Who's that?" one Marine whispered. Rains turned toward the stranger. "Identify yourself." The man simply nodded toward the targets. "Observer," he said, voice rough like gravel dragged over steel. Before Rains could respond, the shooting began. The competition was fierce, every branch trying to prove they had the best. Bullets sliced through the air, some hitting close, others falling short. Wind conditions were brutal. The new Ghost course featured hidden micro-targets that moved on automated tracks over a mile away. No one hit the final moving plate, not even close. Then a sound cut through the murmurs, a click, faint but deliberate, the kind of sound that made every soldier stop breathing. From the back of the range, the man in the cap had unpacked his rifle. It was an old TAC-338, custom-modified beyond recognition, matte black, scratched, silent. He adjusted the scope once, took a deep breath and fired. The bullet's flight seemed to last forever, a silver whisper through the air. Then clang. The target shattered dead center. Silence fell across the range. The radar monitor blinked, the distance readout, 3,812 meters. A new record. "Who authorized that shot?" the range officer yelled. But the man was already disassembling his rifle, calm as if he'd done nothing special. He placed the weapon back in the case, turned toward Rains and said softly, "Still works." "Who are you?" Rains demanded. The man paused, eyes locked on him, gray, distant, unreadable. "Someone who stopped believing in medals," he said. Then he walked toward his truck. No one tried to stop him. SEALs, Marines, Rangers, every one of them stood still, eyes following as he left. Rains caught up just before he reached the gate. That shot, no wind correction, no laser rangefinder, not even a spotter. How? The man opened the truck door and replied, "You don't measure distance, you feel it." Before Rains could say another word, the man started the engine. Dust kicked up around him as the truck rolled out of the base and disappeared down the desert road. Rains stood there, stunned. He glanced at the spot where the man had fired from. Something glinted in the sand. He knelt down, brushed it off, and froze. Another brass casing, engraved with the same single word, iron. That night the recruits didn't whisper anymore. They didn't have to. Every SEAL who saw that shot knew the stories were real. The ghost shooter had returned, and this time he wasn't hiding. Commander Rains didn't sleep that night. The impossible shot replayed in his head, the distance, the precision, the calm of that man in the cap. No wind correction, no electronics, nothing but raw instinct and memory. He'd seen world-class marksmen, but never like that. In his office, the bullet casing from the range sat under a desk lamp, its engraving catching the light, iron. The exact same word as the casing from 2 weeks ago. Coincidence? Not a chance. Rains opened the classified archives, typing keywords, iron, sniper, unauthorized operations. After a moment, the screen flickered and a red warning appeared. Access restricted. Clearance Omega required. He frowned. Omega, that was above his pay grade. Only Joint Command could access that level. He tried another route, backtracking through weapon serials, material requests, and ballistic registries. After hours of searching, one file surfaced, buried deep under decommissioned missions. Operation Silent Dawn. Status: terminated, all operators KIA. Date: March 2003. The file listed 5 names, elite snipers, all presumed dead, but one line stopped him cold. Operator codename Iron Ghost. Status: body unrecovered. Rains sat back, pulse racing. No rank, no name, he muttered, just a ghost. He printed the file and slid it into a folder, but as the printer hummed, he noticed something strange. The timestamp on the document wasn't from 2003. It was from last month. Someone had edited the file recently. He froze. Someone's covering something up. Before he could dig deeper, the base lights flickered. Then the power cut. His monitor went black. Perfect timing, Rains muttered, standing up. He reached for the flashlight in his drawer and stopped. A faint reflection shimmered on the office window. Someone was standing outside. Rains moved quickly, pulled his sidearm, and flung the door open. Nothing. The corridor was empty, the night silent. He stepped outside into the salty air. The base was dark, the ocean breeze cutting sharp. Then a soft metallic sound. Something slid under his door. He turned the flashlight down. A single bullet casing lay on the floor, still warm, etched across the base just like before, iron. But this time something else was scratched beside it, 2 letters, RR. His heart sank. Those were his own initials. Rains sprinted back inside and locked the door. He placed the casing beside the others. 3 identical rounds. 3 impossible messages. Suddenly, his computer screen flickered back to life, though he hadn't turned it on. A single line of text appeared in the center. "You're looking in the wrong file, Commander." Then another. "Meet me where the wind never sleeps." The message vanished. The monitor went black again. Rains's mind raced. "The wind never sleeps," he whispered. The phrase sounded familiar, a saying among desert snipers, referring to the endless gusts of the Nevada training range. He checked the base's old schedules, and there it was, a decommissioned sniper facility near Nevada. Code name, Project Iron Range, officially abandoned. He packed a small go bag, grabbed his sidearm, and slipped out before dawn. By the time the sun rose, Rains was driving through the Mojave, the desert stretching endlessly before him. Dust trailed behind the Jeep as he checked the GPS, nothing but blank coordinates. Hours later, a storm rolled in, a curtain of sand swallowing the horizon. He pressed on, guided only by instinct and a faint sense that he wasn't alone. As visibility dropped to near zero, his headlights caught something in the storm, the faint outline of a figure standing by a weathered sign. Rain slowed the vehicle, squinting. The sign was rusted, barely legible, but 2 words could still be read through the dust: Project Iron. The figure didn't move. Through the swirling sand, the man lifted a hand in a slow, deliberate salute, then vanished into the storm. Rains killed the engine, his heart pounding. The wind howled, and through it came the faintest whisper, barely audible. "You found me, Commander." And for the first time in years, Commander Rains felt something he thought he'd buried long ago: fear. The desert wind screamed like a warning. Rains followed the half-erased tracks until they ended at a forgotten town, one of those ghost places on no map, half swallowed by sand. There, amid broken windows and rusted signs, stood a single diner, lights flickering faintly. He parked the Jeep, stepped out, and entered. The bell above the door chimed softly, breaking the heavy silence. Inside, time seemed to have stopped. Old photos lined the walls, soldiers in uniforms, faded flags, medals left to gather dust. Behind the counter, a young waitress turned at the sound. "Morning, sir," she said politely. "Coffee?" Rains nodded, scanning the room. Only one other customer sat in the far corner, an older man, gray in the beard, wearing that same faded cap. His posture was straight, deliberate. Even seated, he carried the air of command. The waitress placed Rains's cup down, following his gaze. "He's been coming here every morning for years," she said quietly. "Doesn't talk much. Always orders black coffee, sits for exactly 15 minutes, then leaves. Rains studied the man. The trident tattoo on his wrist was faint but unmistakable seal. "He serve?" Rains asked. The waitress nodded, said he used to, but no one knows his name. As if on cue, the old man looked up. His eyes locked onto Rains's steel gray, sharp, unblinking. Then he nodded once, a silent acknowledgement. Rains stood, heart pounding. He crossed the room slowly. "Mind if I sit?" The man gestured to the empty seat. "Free country," he said. Up close, his face bore the marks of years, scars that weren't random but surgical, deliberate. The kind of scars that came from surviving explosions and bullets, not accidents. Rains slid the file from his jacket and placed it on the table. The old man's expression didn't change. "You left a trail," Rains said. "3 casings, 1 message, I'm listening." The man's lip twitched. "You're persistent, Commander. Most would stop digging." "I don't stop when someone shoots 2-mile miracles on my range." The man took a slow sip of coffee. "That wasn't a miracle, that was practice." Rains leaned forward. "Your Iron Ghost, Operation Silent Dawn, I've seen the file." The old man's eyes flickered, a shadow of pain crossing his face. "That file's a lie. They said we were dead because it was cleaner than the truth." "What truth?" He exhaled, the sound like wind through gravel. "We weren't killed. We were erased. Our mission went sideways not because we failed, but because someone wanted it to. My team was sent to silence a target who never existed, a ghost mission for a ghost outcome." Rains frowned. "Set up." "Set up," the man confirmed. "They took our names, our ranks, our families, everything. When I came back, there was no record I'd ever lived. My men didn't make it out." Rains sat back, stunned. "So why reveal yourself now?" The man's eyes softened for a moment. "Because they're doing it again. Another project, new recruits, same lies." Rains stared at him. "You're saying someone inside Naval Command." "Not someone, Commander," the man interrupted quietly. "Everyone above your clearance level already knows." Silence hung thick between them. The clock on the wall ticked loudly. Finally, the old man reached into his pocket and slid a folded photograph across the table. 5 men in uniform stood smiling, arms around each other. One face was crossed out in red. "That was my team," he said. "The dead don't salute, but every SEAL still does when they see me. You know why?" Rains shook his head. The man's eyes hardened. "Because I taught them what the Navy forgot, how to survive when orders are lies." He stood slowly, leaving a few crumpled bills on the table. "You want the truth, Commander? Come find me where the wind never stops." Then, without another word, he walked out into the blinding sun, leaving Rains with the photo and the undeniable chill that legends, no matter how ghostly, were real. The Nevada desert stretched endlessly beneath a burning sky. The air shimmered like glass, and the wind never stopped, a haunting whistle that sounded almost like breathing. Commander Rains followed the directions the ghost had left. No coordinates, just a phrase: "Follow where the wind never sleeps." After 8 hours of driving through emptiness, he saw it, a cluster of half-buried buildings and rusted targets scattered across dunes. The once classified Project Iron training site. It looked abandoned, but it wasn't silent. Rains parked, stepping into the heat. Spent shells crunched beneath his boots. Every surface was riddled with bullet holes, hundreds, thousands of shots, each one precise. Not random training, controlled, practiced, perfect. Then he noticed something, a set of targets nearly 3 miles away, arranged in impossible angles. They weren't lined up, they were staggered across ridges, meaning any shot that hit one had to arc perfectly to reach the next. He walked toward an old wooden crate nearby, its stenciled label faded but still legible: Project Iron, property of Naval Command. Inside, dozens of modified rounds sat neatly arranged, each engraved with a single word: iron. Rains picked one up, turning it in his hand. It was heavier than standard issue, hand-loaded, custom-polished. Whoever made these wasn't just a shooter, they were an artist. "Careful with those," a voice said behind him. Rain spun, hand on his weapon. The ghost stood there, same faded cap, same calm eyes. He wasn't aiming his rifle, just watching. "You found it," he said softly. "You left me no map," Rains replied. "Just riddles and ghosts." The ghost smirked. "You're smarter than most, that's why I let you find me." Rains studied him. "This place, you've been training out here." "For years," the ghost said. "Every week, every shot fired by men who no longer exist." Rains frowned. "Your team." The ghost's expression darkened. "What's left of them?" He gestured toward the dunes. "You see those targets? Each one marks a man I couldn't save. I shoot until I hit dead center because it's the only way they hear me." Rains fell silent. The wind carried the faint metallic clang of a target swaying far off. "Why did you disappear, Ghost?" He exhaled slowly. "Because orders stopped making sense. We were told to eliminate a terrorist financier. Turned out he was working with our handlers. My team discovered the truth mid-mission. We were cut off, labeled rogue, and targeted by our own." Rains's jaw tightened. "And they buried you." Easier than explaining the truth. The ghost knelt, brushing sand off a weathered rifle case. Inside lay his weapon, a heavily modified TAC-338 from decades of use. "This rifle's seen more lies than generals," he said, "but it still hits the truth every time." Rains stepped closer. "You could gone public." The ghost chuckled bitterly. "And say what? That the Navy's elite killed its own men to protect a lie. No one would believed me. Legends are safer than facts." Rain studied the rows of casings glinting in the sunlight. "So what now? You plan to haunt the desert forever?" The ghost's eyes hardened. "No, I plan to finish what they started. The same group that buried me, they're training again. New program, same deception. Only this time they won't make it out alive." Rains hesitated. "You're going after them." "I already am." He slung his rifle over his shoulder, wind tugging at his faded jacket. "You came for answers, Commander, but answers come with targets." Rains looked out at the endless range of dunes, each by silent practice. He understood now this wasn't madness. It was mission. The ghost stopped walking and glanced back. "You ever wonder why SEALs salute me?" Rains shook his head. "Because they know," the ghost said quietly. "I shoot for the ones who can't." Then he turned toward the horizon and vanished into the wind. 3 days later, Commander Rains sat inside a windowless briefing room at Naval Command. Washington, D.C., the fluorescent lights buzzed faintly. His superior, Admiral, stood before a screen displaying classified images, satellite photos of desert compounds, and encrypted transmission logs. "This is what you found in Nevada?" asked. "Yes, sir," Rains said. "The ghost shooter is alive. He's been training out there for years, alone." His eyes narrowed. "You're certain it's him?" Rains nodded. "No one else could made those shots. He left proof, spent rounds engraved with the word iron." The Admiral folded his arms. "And what did he tell you?" "That he was betrayed. His entire team was executed under an operation called Silent Dawn." The room went silent. The expression didn't change, but his knuckles tightened slightly. "That mission never existed," he said evenly. "With respect, sir, I've seen the records. The ghost said your name was on the clearance file." A cold pause. "You're treading on dangerous ground, Commander." Rains leaned forward. "If Silent Dawn was classified black, it means someone buried it, but why?" Sighed, packing slowly. "Because it was never supposed to happen. Silent Dawn was an off-book hit. The Ghost's team uncovered a weapons deal between a private defense contractor and a terrorist proxy. The Pentagon wanted it shut down quietly, but when the team found evidence implicating senior officials, they were erased," Rains finished grimly. "Officially, yes. Rains clenched his fists, so he was right all along. Turned toward the screen again, his tone quieter now. He's not wrong, but he's not innocent either. The ghost didn't just go dark, he retaliated. Took down half the operation's leadership with sniper fire before disappearing. He's been striking rogue targets ever since. Rains felt his stomach sink. So that's why SEALs still salute him. They know he never missed, not a target, not a cause. The Admiral faced him. You don't salute a ghost, Commander, you hunt it. 2 nights later, in the deserts of New Mexico, a convoy moved across the barren terrain, armored trucks escorting a private security team. Inside one of them, a man in a tailored suit reviewed a dossier marked confidential. Silent Dawn II. The convoy's driver suddenly tensed. Sir, movement on the ridge. Before anyone could react, a distant crack echoed, followed by silence. The lead vehicle's windshield exploded inward. Another crack. A second driver slumped over, dead. Panic erupted. Soldiers scrambled out, scanning the horizon, but the shooter was invisible. No muzzle flash, no sound, no dust, just the whisper of wind. Within seconds, 4 men were down. A 5th reached for his radio, shouting, "We're under." Crack. Static. When the gunfire stopped, only the desert spoke. From half a mile away, hidden behind an outcropping of rock, the ghost exhaled slowly, lowering his rifle. Each shot had been deliberate. No wasted rounds. The truck carrying the Silent Dawn II plans burned in the distance, and with it, a second betrayal reduced to ash. He whispered to himself, one more promise kept. Hours later, Rains arrived at the site under orders to investigate. The air still smelled of cordite. The wreckage lay scattered, and every body had a single, precise wound, high chest, clean entry. Rains crouched beside a fallen mercenary, nodding a symbol carved into the dirt near his hand, a small, etched ghost emblem. He was here, Rains muttered. An agent beside him asked, "Sir, who was?" Rains looked toward the dark horizon. The man they erased, the one we should never forgotten. He stood, pocketing a single bullet casing marked iron. Somewhere out there, the ghost was watching, not as a criminal, not as a hero, but as something rarer. The soldier who fought for truth long after the war was over. Rains whispered into the wind, "If you're still out there, finish it." And the desert answered with silence. A storm rolled across the Arizona desert that night, thunder rumbling like distant artillery, wind whipping sand through the cracks of an abandoned airfield. Commander Rains crouched behind a rusted hangar, his night vision optics scanning the perimeter. He wasn't alone. A team of covert SEAL operatives flanked him, all armed and silent. Their mission came straight from Admiral himself. Capture the ghost shooter, alive if possible. Rains wasn't sure if alive was truly what they wanted. Movement at 11 o'clock, whispered one of the SEALs through the comms. Rains focused. A lone figure moved along almost gliding through the darkness. The ghost. Hold fire, Rains ordered. The ghost moved toward a hangar in the distance, the same one that once stored experimental aircraft decades ago. Rains knew this was where it all began. Project Iron, Operation Silent Dawn, the betrayal. They followed quietly, fanning out. Inside the hangar was a museum of buried secrets. Old surveillance drones, classified files, bullet-riddled targets, and a single operational laptop sitting on a crate, its screen flickering. Then a voice echoed through the darkness. "I figured they'd send you, Rains." The ghost stepped out of the shadows, rifle slung low, unthreatening but confident. Rain from the open roof dripped across his worn jacket. Rains kept his weapon lowered. "You knew we were coming." "I knew he'd send you," the ghost said. "You're the only one who might still believe in truth." "Who's he?" The ghost smirked. "He orchestrated it all, Silent Dawn, the cover-up, the lies, but that's not the worst part." He tapped a key on the laptop. The screen displayed a feed of documents, audio logs, and encrypted footage. It showed high-ranking military officials, including in conversation with arms dealers. His voice was unmistakable. "Terminate the unit. They know too much. Make it look like an enemy ambush." Rains froze. "My God." The ghost's eyes didn't waver. "I told you, they didn't kill us for disobedience. They killed us for honesty." Before Rains could reply, the comms in his ear crackled. "Commander, we have multiple hostiles inbound, black choppers, no insignia." Rains's blood ran cold. "Sent reinforcements." "Not to capture," the ghost said grimly, "to clean house." Outside, the night lit up. Helicopters roared overhead, floodlights slicing through the rain. Bullets tore through the hangar walls, sparks flying. "Move," Rains shouted. He and the ghost dove for cover behind a steel crate. The ghost rolled, taking a precise shot through a shattered window. One helicopter gunner dropped instantly. "You're still as sharp as legend says," Rains muttered. The ghost chambered another round. "Legends don't survive long, Commander." The SEAL team returned fire, suppressing the incoming troops, but they were heavily outnumbered, a full Black Ops strike force. Rains glanced at the ghost. "We can't win this." The ghost pointed at the laptop. "You don't need to. Get that out, it's proof." "What about you?" The ghost smiled faintly. "Someone has to hold them off." Rains hesitated. "You'll die here." The ghost's expression hardened. "Already did." He pushed the laptop toward Rains. "Go. They need to hear the truth from a man who still wears a name." Rains grabbed the laptop, ducking low and sprinting through the side exit. Explosions thundered behind him as the ghost unleashed a flurry of perfect shots, every bullet deliberate, every target falling before they could reach the door. Outside, Rains reached a Humvee, slamming the laptop into the passenger seat. In the mirror, he saw the hangar engulfed in fire, a silhouette standing defiant amid the flames, rifle raised toward the sky. The ghost. Rains clenched the steering wheel, torn between duty and conscience. "Forgive me," he whispered, driving into the storm. As he disappeared into the darkness, the hangar erupted, a brilliant explosion lighting the desert for miles. And for a moment, it looked like the ghost had finally vanished for good. 2 weeks later, Washington, D.C. was drowning in rain, cold, relentless, and fitting for what was coming. Commander Rains walked through the marble halls of the Naval Intelligence Building, a sealed drive clutched in his hand. Inside it was the data the ghost had died to protect, the full record of Operation Silent Dawn. He hadn't slept since that night in Arizona. The explosion, the fire, the silence. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw that lone figure standing against the blaze, refusing to run. Now it was time to make it mean something. Rains entered a secure chamber where Admiral sat at the head of a long table, flanked by senior officers and 2 defense contractors. The mood was icy. "Commander Rains," said with forced calm, "you disobeyed orders. You compromised an active operation. Do you have anything to say before we determine your fate?" Rains placed the drive on the table. "Yes, sir. You should see what's on this before you speak another word." Frowned. "And what is it?" "The truth," Rains said. He plugged the drive into the system. The main screen flickered and then played the recordings. The room went still. Voices filled the air, among them discussing illegal arms deals, off-book assassinations, and the erasure of entire SEAL units who'd learned too much. The evidence was damning. No spin could bury it. When it ended, no one spoke. His jaw tightened. "Where did you get this?" Rains looked him dead in the eye. "From the man you tried to erase." Rose from his chair, face pale. "He's dead." Rains stepped closer. "No, Admiral, he's immortal." Security rushed in moments later, but not for Rains. 2 federal investigators entered behind them, flashing DOJ credentials. "Admiral," one said, You're under arrest for treason, conspiracy, and obstruction of military justice. Froze, eyes burning with fury. You think this changes anything, he hissed. Rains leaned in. You're right, it doesn't change the past, but it honors the ones who tried to. As was led away, the storm outside roared louder. Later that night, Rains walked along the Potomac River. The city lights shimmered across the water, calm but heavy like the quiet after a battle. He stopped at a memorial wall nearby, engraved with names of fallen SEALs. He traced his hand along one of them, Aaron Cole, the ghost's real name. I kept my promise, Rains whispered. They know now. A soft breeze rippled the water, and faintly from the shadows a figure stepped forward. Rains froze. It was him, the ghost, alive, a bandage on his shoulder, his eyes tired but fierce. Thought you were dead, Rains breathed. Was supposed to be, the ghost replied with a faint grin. Explosions make for good endings. You saved me, Rains said. The ghost shrugged. Didn't do it for you, did it for them. He looked at the wall of names. They deserved truth, not medals. Rains nodded slowly. You could come back, you know. The Navy owes you everything. The ghost smiled, that quiet, knowing kind of smile that hid more pain than pride. I don't belong to the Navy anymore, or to any flag. I belong to the men who can't walk out of the dark. He turned toward the river, his figure fading into the mist. Where will you go? Rains asked. The ghost paused. Wherever lies still whisper louder than truth. And then he was gone, as if the rain itself carried him away. Rains stood there for a long time, listening to the city hum. He realized something then. The ghost shooter wasn't a legend because of how he fought. He was a legend because he never stopped fighting. The next morning, news broke across the nation. High-ranking officials indicted, operations exposed, medals revoked. No one mentioned the ghost shooter by name. But in every SEAL base across America, an old, wordless tradition continued. Every morning before training, one soldier would step forward, raise a hand to the sky, and salute. Not to a rank, not to a name, but to a promise. Because legends don't need gravestones. They live in the silence between gunfire, and in the honor of those who remember.